Greetings and welcome to an evening of It's All Connected, the Art of Sustainability. I'm your host, Cameron McCasland, joining you from the Downtown Library in beautiful Music City, USA, Nashville, Tennessee, where our live audience, that's you, has just witnessed the documentary film It's All Connected, the Art of Sustainability, in which I served as the writer and director. Joining me for a panel discussion are some familiar faces from the movie, as well as others who work behind the scenes to make this film and event tonight happen. With us tonight, we have Melcher, who has worked as a public information officer at WeGo for the last 3 years. Previously, he served at Volunteer State Community College in Gallatin. He began his career in the television news business and has lived in Nashville for 22 years. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Next, we have Jenn Harrman, who develops educational initiatives, policy, and programs to help Nashvillians rethink refuse, reuse, and recycle as an administrative services manager for the Nashville Department of Waste Services and a public servant of over 8 years. Her work centers on implementing sustainable, resilient, and equitable alternatives to landfill disposal for the benefit of all who live here in Nashville. Welcome, Jenn.
Thanks for having me.
Todd Lawrence is the executive director of Urban Green Lab in Nashville, Tennessee, a nonprofit which teaches communities how to live sustainable. A Nashville native, Todd's background is in global public health with a focus of community education and infectious disease prevention. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have Drye, who is the Assistant Director of Administrative Services at the Nashville Public Library and leads NPL's Sustainability Task Force, which is committed to educate and engage library staff and patrons on environmental sustainability and climate change issues. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you.
And lastly, we have Mr. Willie Sims Jr., or as he is better known around Nashville, Big Fella, CEO and lead creative at Fellavision, a production company here in Nashville, responsible for television programs like Cooking with Big Fella, Talking with Big Fella, and the annual Juneteenth celebration and fireworks show live from Fort Negley. Welcome, Big.
Thanks, Cam Bam.
Everyone, I'm so glad you're here. I hope you enjoyed the movie. I appreciate all of you for giving your time to this tonight. I want to say, first and foremost, one of the things about this movie that we wanted to do is try to be positive in the way that we approach it. The last thing we ever want is for people to feel bad about how they live their lives. And with that in mind, I want to start by just going down the road and just like, what is one positive thing that you see in Nashville that's happening right now in sustainability? And Jenn, we'll just start with you.
Ooh, the hot seat first. Gosh, I see so many things. We're seeing so many people move here from all over the place, and I think one thing in particular in my work is I do a lot of education with the public and getting to interact with all these people from different places. I think we're really starting to see a shift in folks really wanting to find more opportunities to engage in sustainability in ways that's even changed since my family grew up here and since I've been living here just in the past 10 years. So, yeah.
Big, how about you?
Man, I was trying to think of something. I really don't know. I do have one positive thing. At my home, we've been recycling for a while now, and we've been sticking to it, even though sometimes it gets out of hand. I think it's worth it. That's all I got.
Susan, how about you?
Well, one of the areas that I'm in charge of is facilities. And I know from Nashville Public Library's perspective, we have been trying to make sure that we have, changing out fixtures so that we have LED lighting, that we have programmable lighting so the lights are coming off, that kind of thing. I know a lot of government facilities are going that way. I know a lot of private industry is going that way. So I think that's one way that you can help the environment is having those controlled systems so that lights aren't on, lights aren't needed, those systems take it off. So,
Todd, how about you?
Yeah, well, first of all, we passed a transit referendum recently, which makes a big deal. As you know, half of all of our greenhouse gas emissions in Nashville come from transit. So it's a really important progress. And we have a mayor, Mayor Freddie O'Connell, who really cares about the environment and sustainability. We've created a climate action plan for the city and a goal for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And we have a healthy nonprofit sector that's working on the environment and sustainability, from the Harpeth River Conservancy to Cumberland River Compact and other groups. So I actually see a lot of promise. in where we are right today.
Fantastic. And Eric?
Well, I'll certainly pick up where Todd left off, and that's choose how you move. That was a big deal, folks. So thank you so much for the people that supported that in the community. That means a lot, not only for transit, but also for sidewalks and for traffic signals, all sorts of things that we need to make Nashville be able to move. It's not often that you get to come and give a little news, but the mayor announced that we're building a new bus maintenance facility. Not very exciting, right? Very exciting for this crowd. We will be able to build an infrastructure of sustainable fuels with that facility. We can't do that currently because we don't have the room to be able to put in either the hydrogen fuel cells or battery-powered electric. Or the compressed natural gas, which is kind of the three things that we're looking at right now. This gives us the money to do that. So that's a big deal. You will see in the coming years us be able to go to a zero emissions fleet. We were not able to do that before. So thank you for your vote. We appreciate it.
Eric, that's a great place to start, kind of where my next question was going, because something that I learned in making this movie is in having conversations with all of you and all these other beautiful people that you may see that are still in the audience tonight, was I can't help but see things now after having conversations. And I was bus blind before because I do drive a car. And it's like, you know that buses exist, you know they're out there. But for me, it was just like, once we started having conversations about transit and how it touched all these other parts of life, I can't help but see buses anywhere and everywhere I go. There are so many that are out there. There's so much opportunity to jump on a bus. And I think that that's a great thing. But I kind of do want to talk about the future of Nashville and kind of where we're going, because everyone that's on this panel is looking towards the future in the places that you work. For our audience that is watching at home and for here in our studio audience, can you kind of give us your viewpoint on like what 10 years from now might look like? What's something that we could be looking at from your organization's point of view that you're trying to implement right now in hopes to better grow a better Nashville? Let's go down the line again.
All right. Waste services here. So definitely looking at how we can create more sustainable solutions for how we manage our waste, how to reduce our reliance on landfill. At Metro Waste Services, we have a long-term goal to reduce our reliance on landfilling by 90%, which is very lofty. Now, that may not happen in the next 10 years, but what I do see is increase in curbside composting, increase in the materials that we can recycle. One of the discussions that we have a lot at our leadership level is really how can we increase infrastructure? How can we incentivize the markets to come in to be able to recycle more materials? Because unfortunately, there's a whole lot of, in particular, plastic out there that can't be recycled. Now, I would always advocate try not to get what you don't need, but there's a lot of materials out there and they need a place to go and they're valuable and they can turn into new goods and products. So I see a lot of change coming for our waste management systems for all of Nashville.
Yeah. Big, I know you got something good for the next 10 years because you're always telling me about ideas for the future. So what's your thought or your hope 10 years from now? What are we looking at?
Man, I never really thought about it from like sustainability as far as like waste and food and all that stuff. A little bit with like the food desert stuff, but I think there'll be grocery stores in those food deserts probably in the next 10 years, but there'll be different people in them. Yeah, pretty much. But I've been looking at sustainability from as far as like sustaining creative communities and just trying to sustain like people, I'm not too much sure, man. 10 years will be what, in the 30s? Yeah, Nashville's the city of the 20s, so we're gonna ride this out and see how this go. Man, that'd be 35.
35.
My daughter told me she's the class of 2030. I was like, oh my God, I'm getting old. Yeah, that's all I know is hopefully some of those communities with food deserts, hopefully some of those people will make it to see grocery stores there if they don't end up in Springfield. That was a good one.
Yeah, I love it. Susan, I know the library's got a ton of stuff because we're having those conversations all the time, but what are you most excited about where the library's going with sustainability?
We are constantly trying to reduce our footprint. Sometimes it's not always easy. For example, if we're talking about transit, Metro offers bus passes to every Metro employee, maybe incentivizing somehow riding the bus more. If you can't ride the bus, because sometimes that's not practical for some, make sure maybe you can car share, maybe you can ride with somebody else. You know, anything to take a car off the road that's you don't have to ride individually. Try to get employees to do that.
Yeah. Todd, how about you?
Yeah, I think we can make a lot of progress in the school system. I'm a big believer in teachers and educators, and I think we have a long way to go, but I think in the next 10 years we can see some progress in making sure that teachers in the public school system, in the private school system, in homeschools, in camps, daycares, are teaching about sustainable practices. And that means tweaking the curriculum, setting the right standards, making sure that teachers have access to resources and training materials. I think that's a really promising and upstream way of getting toward preventing the problem from getting worse in the first place. But I'll also say that 10 years is around the corner in human terms. And I think we need to set the right expectations. It took thousands of years to get to this point where we are right now. It's going to take more than 10 years. But I think, what I'm trying to say is don't create too big of a goal for yourself that you can't meet. I think we need to make sure that we're taking the right baby steps so that people actually adopt this type of behavior.
Well, I'm really happy that you said 10 years, because most people say, what are you going to get for us tomorrow? And increasing bus service immediately is a big part of Choose How You Move. And it's not easy to use the mass transit here in Nashville. It just isn't. I mean, I think a lot of us have lived in other cities where it's much easier. It's our goal to make it easier for you to be able to do it, because you can't force people to use mass transit. That's not fair. You need to be able to say, this makes sense in my life. But the future, as I see it, is very exciting. It's in North Nashville right now. The North Nashville Transit Center has become what we call a transit-oriented community. We've got Urban Housing Solutions, which is right next door, and they've got affordable housing for a whole mix of folks. You've got senior citizens, you've got people that are just, low income, you've got all sorts of folks together, and that was just kind of happenstance. We kind of laughed. We said we didn't necessarily know that they were going to be there and that we were going to have a transit center there in attack. Those days are over. Nashville is planning to have transit-oriented communities, and that means having affordable housing, having a walkable grocery store, having all sorts of things within a walkable area. And you can see the future. You want to see the future? It's in Donaldson. The Donaldson Transit Center is going to be a big part of that. We are planning a development there with housing and some partners that we're working with. So with the library there, the library branch, that was huge. All these things developed together, suddenly you've got a walkable community in Donaldson. Now, Lebanon Pike still needs sidewalks and all sorts of other things, but there's a lot of things that we need to work on, but I think that is the future, and give us 10 years and we'll give you that, absolutely, for sure.
I love that. I love talking about the future, and I love where our city is going. One of the things about this movie that our audience may have noticed is, like, we try to get into the neighborhoods. We try to go into some of the places that you don't see, because Nashville sometimes can be a country music postcard. And we wanted to go to the places and show you the neighborhoods and some of the places that are disappearing, to Big's point, like stuff that's here now that won't be here later, to capture that. But I do want to talk about the here and now and kind of what are we doing right now that are sustainable things that are simple. Because again, I think it's to Todd's point, like it's hard to, you don't want to beat yourself up or set these goals that you can't get, but there are very simple things that we can do. So I would ask on a personal level, Big talked about recycling for his family earlier. What is something that you think you do that you could share with our audience that they may could put into practice if they chose to?
Yeah, well, I love that you brought back that those small, simple actions. One thing I really try to advocate is that, again, recycling is complicated and doing it wrong is okay. Like 100%, it's, you might put something in there that's not supposed to be in there. Try not to do that, but I really encourage folks, our goal is zero waste, right? That's the ultimate goal, that 90% from landfill. That sounds really scary and really complicated. How do you create a zero waste lifestyle? And it's really just about starting with one thing. So maybe that's when you're in the grocery store looking, when you're going to buy something, think, is that recyclable? Is that compostable? What is this packaging? Maybe I could get something in a different package that's more recyclable, or that maybe doesn't have, maybe it's not wrapped in plastic. Maybe starting recycling at home. I love that you're recycling at home, and it's just sorting those materials and saying, let's just start with aluminum cans, or let's just start with cardboard. Doing those little steps. If you want to learn to backyard compost, that sounds scary. I know in the video they said you have to turn it. You don't have to turn it. You can just let it sit there and decompose. It just takes a really long time. So there's just a lot of those little simple things that you can do.
I just like recycling. It makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing. No, question. So, recycling, right? We do mess up sometimes. I throw something in there and she'll be like, you can't recycle that. And the glass, right? Is it better to buy stuff in glass than plastic? Or is it better to buy, what's better to buy?
That's a great question. I feel like you've also opened up a rabbit hole that could go on forever. So one thing about glass, it's infinitely recyclable. It's also an inert material, so you can recycle it over and over and over and over again. There's a whole lot of economics that go into it that are definitely above me, but you can recycle glass, and you can recycle a lot of plastics, so bottles, jars, and jugs. As long as it's recyclable, if it's in something else that's plastic, you can't really recycle it. You're in Nashville right now.
From a personal perspective, my spouse and I, we carpool together just about every day if we can, unless our schedules are wacky. Our household does recycle. We recycle a lot. We have 4 boys, so it's hard to teach them, but we're teaching them all the time. Nope, that's recycled. Take it out to the blue bin. No, that's not recyclable. And watching the movie, composting. We have never composted. I think we need to do that because we actually grow a garden. We used to have box garden, and I think we're going to try the bucket garden in the back. But compost would help, and we have flowers and this, and so I think we're going to start composting. I think we'll turn it though. We don't want it just to be there.
I feel like if nothing else, this movie, Susan's going to compost, so that's a win. Todd, how about you?
There's so many ideas come to mind. One of them is in our neighborhood, we have something called a Buy Nothing group. I don't know if you're familiar with these, but you can basically, within your neighborhood, you go on Facebook, and if you have a bed frame or, just whatever it is, an old fan, you want someone to take it off your hands, you put this up on Facebook, and someone in the neighborhood can come pick it up. And so we use this all the time. A lot of our furniture, in fact, in our house came from this Buy Nothing group. And actually, when I go to pick up that furniture or when I go to pick up that old fan, I meet a neighbor, and I get to know that neighbor. So it's also community building. And so I love the Buy Nothing group. I love Facebook Marketplace. I don't like Facebook so much, but I like Facebook Marketplace. A whole nother story. So I just think before you buy something new, think about how you can renew something you've already bought. And give it a second life. Give it a third life. It's so important that we reuse what we've got on this planet because we can't afford a single-use planet, right? So try to reuse as much as possible. That's where I went with it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go off the community engagement part. That really is critical to everything. When you become engaged in your community, you find all sorts of ways to do things differently. My wife and I, we've recycled for, 30, 40 years. But in Jolton, we have to take our recycling to a recycling center. And that's run by the Whites Creek Community Club, and we were members of the Whites Creek Community Club, and a lovely guy by the name of Joe West, who has since passed on, but a lovely man. That was his life in retirement, was that recycling center. So my wife actually goes out there. When she does the recycling, she will then help clean up, because people inevitably will throw a TV out there or whatever, all sorts of junk. And it's got to be piled up. And if we don't do that, then the schools, which are next to that, will get irritated and not want to have the recycling center. So all these things kind of get integrated together, and I guess that's what I think is most important, is that community building and really working together to find new ways to do things.
I know there's been a lot of conversation with me over the last 2 years making this movie about, like, Cameron, why do you care at all about any of this? And like, where did your head get in? And for me, it was always like I could point to two specific things as a child that influenced me. I grew up in Texas, and there was the Don't Mess with Texas campaign. And if you're not from Texas and you've heard Don't Mess with Texas, you think that's an invitation to a fist fight. But what it really was a don't litter in Texas. That's what it was about. And the commercials were on all the time when I was a kid. The second thing was Captain Planet and the Planeteers, which was a cartoon series about basically coming together and showing you all the different ways that the earth came together and how not to recycle and take care of those things. And it was such a simple thing in that moment for me that's like, was so informative that, like, as I've gone through the years, because I'm not perfect, I don't do all the things, we recycle at our house, but that's about as far as it goes. And I can tell you they don't always get out to the curb on time sometimes. But it's one of those deals where, like, I want to hear from all of you, like, is there a moment in time that you can think of where you became self-aware of the planet is something that needs to be taken care of, and it changed the way that you shifted your focus and the way you led your life? Yeah, we can start anywhere on this one.
I can go first. I remember as a kid, I grew up in Tennessee, not in Nashville, but I can remember back in the 70s with the oil embargo and having to wait. I was a kid, but having to wait with my parents in line and on Tuesdays or Thursdays or whatever it was. And then my mother became conscious of the planet, I think, after that, just knowing that, oh, wow, oil may go away, gas may go away, what are we going to do? And I remember as a kid, she started recycling before recycling was chic, but I remember having to, like, peel the labels off the cans and wash them out, because that's what you did, because my mother was weird that way. But anyway, so I think that's when I became conscious of it. And as an adult, I think I took that with me.
Anybody else want to jump in on this one?
Well, I think the taking stock of your life, and I think probably a lot of people in this room have done that, and saying, okay, listen, there are some facts of my life that are what they are. I live in Jolton. I've got to drive a lot to get to places. That's not anything I can change with living in Jolton. I'd rather be able to walk to places, but we don't have sidewalks and we'll probably never get them. But if you take a look at things and you say to yourself, well, what can I do? And I think we've all done that, and I think that's really what it's all about. If you say, well, fine, then I'm going to put in solar, and I've got solar now, and so I've maybe taken my carbon footprint down a little bit. And, if I keep doing those things, even just freezing bread and not having food waste and be thinking about these things, that stuff makes a difference. So I think that's really what it comes down to, is not because otherwise you're just thinking, oh my gosh, it's so big, we'll never solve it. It's just like, yeah, what can you do today? Can you compost? Can you go get rid of your food waste? Can you put in solar? Can you get a hybrid car? Can you find ways to drive less? Those things make a big difference.
Okay, I'll jump back in now.
Okay.
I think I just struggled with this question because I don't think there was really one moment. There have been so many moments in my life where I think just there have been little triggers. Growing up, my parents crushed cans. I loved just crushing the cans. That was fun. And it wasn't until I was older that I recognized, oh, we were recycling. I didn't know. I was just crushing the can. My dad always yelled at me for not closing the refrigerator door, not turning off the lights, letting the water run while I was brushing my teeth. And these were all things that were it was just who I was. It was just what my family taught me to do, and it had nothing to do with sustainability. It just had to do with money, honestly. And it wasn't until I was much older that I realized that all these little moments added up to a career where I am constantly advocating for saving our natural resources. Before I was in waste, I was advocating for water quality. Before that, I was advocating for not tearing down our historic buildings and keeping them from going to landfill. So it was all these just kind of little tiny moments, I think, adding up as opposed to just one specific moment.
I know, funny you mentioned the financial part of that, because that is part of the conversations I've had. Me and Todd had a great conversation that didn't make it into the movie about this, where it's just like the idea of, like, you think recycling is like, oh, we're doing this because we're trying to save the planet, but the financial part of recycling is such a big part of it that they don't put that in the advertisement. They don't talk about that. They want you to feel good about it. It's not like, oh, we're going to make more money off of this part of recycling. So, yeah, it's huge.
What's the financial part of it?
It's bigger. What I will tell you about this is, for all the things that did not make this movie, because we had a lot of conversations. I mean, Jenn sent me a ton of footage of recycling that didn't go in there. We have plans to continue this as a TV series, a half-hour stuff talking about, it's going to be called It's Still Connected, and we're going to kind of follow up on some of this stuff and put more of what is there and have more conversations in the future. So that's coming from Nashville Public Library and NECAT very soon. So, yeah. Todd, anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm like Jenn. I think it was lots of different things that sort of woke me up to sustainability and the environment. But I do recall back in, I was like probably third grade, our teacher taught us how to make an environment. He instructed us to go home, take a jar, fill it with rocks and sticks from your backyard, and all kinds of stuff that you can find in the backyard, and bring it back in. And that's what I did. I went home. I found this big Tom's Peanut jar that I had at the house. I filled it with rocks and sticks and moss from the backyard, and I brought it to class to show the professor, and all the other kids did too. And he said, "There you go. You've made an environment." But it dawned on me decades later that what he didn't teach me is how to protect that environment. And it has changed the way that I view that exercise. It's not enough to make an environment. You have to protect it from, by what you buy at the grocery store, or how you take the bus, or all these millions of things that we saw in the video tonight. So I think the slow realization over time that what I didn't learn when I was a kid is what I need to learn now.
That's fantastic. Well, with that said, that's about all the time that we have this evening. I want to say a special thanks to all of our panelists tonight for this wonderful conversation. To NPL Director Terry Luke for the wonderful intro and all her hard work on this movie. I want to thank our in-theater audience for being here this evening to witness the launch of this film that so many people helped create, as well as our audience watching at home and tuning in on the NECAT network and its partner carriers. To learn more about NECAT and how you can make your own film and TV show in Nashville, please visit us on the web at necatnetwork.org. And as anyone who has ever made a movie knows, it takes a village. So I'd like to acknowledge the work of NPL Sustainability Committee members who came together for this. To Forrest Eagle and his staff at NPL Production Services, who contributed greatly to the film you just saw. Shout out to Hannah in the booth for making this evening go so smoothly. The NECAT staff, Samantha Burns and Eric Lowy, who have been beside me daily since the start of this, and Larry Jurek, who has helped keep us all on the path to great television here. To my fellow producers, Lee Booley and Kate Wingate, give a shout out to Kate for everything. If you ate something great tonight, Kate made that happen. Who remembered they were instrumental in writing the grant to Urban Green Lab, which was provided to help fund this project, as well as a guiding light in the production from a simple idea to the stage tonight. And lastly, to my family who I love, and to who all were tasked with shooting video elements or watching me do it obsessively, hanging outside of cars and things like that as we drove around our lovely city on days where I should not have been working, actually. For everyone else, please remember that no one can do it all, but we can all do something. Nashville and our entire planet is a beautiful place, and we are all connected. For the Downtown Library in the heart of Music City, USA, I'm Cameron McCasland, wishing you well. To find out more about how you can stay connected, learn more about sustainability, visit us on the web at library.nashville.gov. Until next time, good night.